Hello, hello, hello. This is Keats Ross, Revelator with the Hallowed, host of the Pragmagick podcast, and of course, Revelator Roz, the audiomancer, who is currently releasing his first debut album and 3 EPs, the first of which came out last month, the second of which, well, it's kind of what brings us here today. If you can tell, I'm in the dimming room, but it is in shambles. If you look around, it's in the process of being completely moved. Tonight is the eve, and the very last night we will be Seattleites. And I wanted to take this time amidst all the chaos of relocation and the many pitfalls and wonders that come with uprooting your life to set up this episode and just kind of discuss what you're about to hear. With all that said, I did want to make mention that we are raising some extra funds for the move. We unfortunately had to pay rent on 2 different places this month, and I am hoping to get a sort of beater jalopy vehicle to continue my work across state lines. So if you have any inclination to donate any moolah towards our cause and relocation, you can go to spotfund.com/relocation costs. I'll also put a link in the description. All that said, let's talk about what you're about to hear. The first part of this episode is from a Patreon stream I did earlier this month, which you can be a member of at patreon.com/pragmagick. But it's of me watching astrologer S.J. Anderson's Eclipse Energies video he put out last month. You will also find his video and the links he talks about in his video, of which I am reacting to, in the description. And do me a solid and go subscribe to him and give him some love, because without his video, of which you'll see me reacting to, I wouldn't have an arithmetic, really, for the profundity of wonder that my own eclipse rituals, the past, since 2017, and more currently in the past couple of years through my hauntomancy work, I wouldn't really have that cosmic dimension of arithmetic. So the first half of this episode discusses, or really shares, my live reaction to kind of understanding the shades and the confluence of the result periods of the current eclipse cycles. After a small musical interlude, which will most likely be of Dim the Sun, the new Revelator Roz single from the forthcoming Algol-2 EP that was supposed to be released this week, but I discuss in the video right after, was not really meant to be, considering all of the insanity abound and, overextending myself and discussing the actual eclipse energies that are overshadowing 2 of which are coming together right now. And so everything's extremely heightened and insane, and I just wanted to take this time to set up this quick dispatch from the remnants, the ruins of the Seattle dimming room. Next time you see me, you will see me in the new dimming room. And tonight we'll be closing a circle. I'll post it on Patreon. A communion with Little Wind and the spirits abound here in this dimming room. Give them the new address and haunt on to the next aeon. This episode concerns eclipses, and it concerns the personal results and proclamations of this eclipse arithmetic that I discovered through S.J. Anderson. And it also discusses, why maybe you're not getting Algol-2 as planned, and what that all means, and how heavy this current stasis has been. With that said, I'm going to hopefully come home a truck richer tonight. And if so, that means that I'd be incredibly skint moving forward if you find it in your heart to help us afford this little budgetary concern through the move. spotfund.com/relocation costs. And as always, please subscribe, share, do all that sort of stuff. I'm terrible at asking not only for donations, but also, for the follows and blah, 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 and all of that. Because I assume you're all adults. I don't need to remind you. If you like it, you'll like it. You'll put forth the effort to say you do. And with that, I'm extremely thankful and so happy at the Patreon community we've built. Hell, everything that's been dispatched from this very room the past 5 or so years has been incredibly potent and powerful. And not only do I have 2 more EPs of brand new music that will be out within the next few weeks or month or so, I will also have the introduction to Hauntomancy solidified and celebrated with that as well. All of which wouldn't have been possible without this very dimming room and without folks like you listening. All that said, enjoy the episode. First a reaction stream, a hypercut of a reaction stream, and then an X, Hex, and Vex about all the goings on right now. And I'll see you on the other side with that. Haunt on. I'd rather be Shanghai than Shang-Load. You know what I mean? So there's an astrologer named S.J. Anderson, and I know Frater Perseus is a follower of S.J. Anderson. Some of you watching might be as well, but he just put out this very synchronistic video about eclipse magic and like eclipse arithmetic, and through Hauntomancy, lots of the workings and lots of the things that we did 2 years ago during the Great American Eclipse Saga around this time, were under the Great American Eclipses, and a lot of those magical workings happened under. And I wanted to watch it again. I was thinking we could do it here on stream because he mentions using someone's arithmetic and actually seeing when the effects of those eclipses actually take place and like however long. But he mentions specifically some of the eclipses and when they should be, those workings should be hitting. And I was like, oh shit, I need to, because as I'm doing the Hauntomancy writings, or I'm still working on the Spectrivium, the primer, like this is going to be great information to see kind of the thoroughfare of these eclipses.
Just kick it off here. I want to start by saying I get this technique from a particular teacher of mine, Ben Dykes, Dr. Ben Dykes. A lot of you may know Dr. Dykes. He's got a press called Kazemi Press where he translates a bunch of texts from the ancient world. His translation of Dorotheus of Sidon is one of my favorites. It's a mainstay in my library. I learned a lot from Dorotheus in terms of how I practice on a number of levels. So that book is amazing. You can get it, I think, probably just type in Ben Dykes Kazemi Press, but this video is about a technique he taught, and he's written a couple of books called The Astrology of the World, or About the Astrology of the World, or Mundane Astrology, particularly in that Islamic tradition where they were so key in developing techniques around mundane astrology. These techniques about the Ptolemaic eclipse timing techniques come from that book, I believe, of Dr. Dykes, but I got this from a lecture that he gave at UAC, the United Astrology Conference in 2018. To summarize the technique, very high level, it's like an algorithm. You have a moment of an eclipse, you go to where the eclipse is visible, and then you plug it into an algorithm and it spits out a range of dates that tell you when the peak effects will arrive. In the ancient world, and according to Ptolemy, solar eclipses you measure in years, lunar eclipses you measure in months in terms of their effects. So most often with visible solar eclipses, it's like 2 years later when the effects arrive. So it can be short.
So that's interesting. It's around 2 years later, he says, and it would have been 2 years ago, the Great American Eclipse Saga, when we did all that. So a lot of what's happening now is working within that arithmetic.
A front and center story, I think, in a larger collective. And it certainly became majorly politicized in the 2024 election. This was a huge part of the discourse. Like, why won't the Democrats release the list? And the Republicans and the Trump campaign ran on, hey, we're going to really...
I care. I get what... I love that he's doing this, and he does more of the blanket... Not blanket, but generalized, the eclipse reverberations affecting, us in a greater context. But I'm not necessarily interested in that, right? So what I'm trying to find is, yeah, so it looks like he's chaptered it. Okay, so if you don't mind, I mean, unless folks watching want to keep listening about or retreading the fucking political bullshit that we're always embroiled in, but marking it, I am stoked he's done that, and I think that's really cool he has done that, but it's not something I'm particularly interested in, so I'm going to move ahead here.
To learn this, okay? The only other thing I'm going to say is that there's 3 eclipses we're going to look at. The Great American Eclipse 2017, August. We're going to look at the October 2023 solar eclipse in Libra, and then we'll finally examine the 2024 April solar eclipse in Aries.
Okay, so I can put up, I have proof and documentation for each one of these eclipses that he's talking about. From the 2017 American eclipse, what I call the Night Thief ritual. I've written about it on HAUNTOMANCY, or on Haunt Manual, and on We the Hollowed. The October 2023 eclipse, where I was in New Mexico and actually did a big tarot reading, and I could even bring that up too. And then he says the April 8th, 2024, which was the first day I did a ritual bath and cleansing under that eclipse, and it was also the first day of my most recent job I had, which I have left a couple of months ago, which I documented as well and put in that recent Pragmagick episode. So, great. I have documentation and proof for each one of these eclipses. So, yeah, we'll keep going.
All 3 of these eclipses visible right through America, and that's a predicate trigger for this technique. Is it visible there? Now run the Ptolemaic algorithm, and now you get the timing of when the effects will arrive. You go to the Great American Eclipse in 2017, 21st August 2017. I'm using this method. The range of a peak period for these effects to arrive is 18 March 2019 to 14 October 2019. So
trying to get used to how he's listed this out. So let's see.
Those are the dates we're interested in of a peak period for these effects to arrive is 18 March 2019 to 14 October 2019. So those are the dates we're interested in, the big events that happen, to try to say, okay, that rhythm. There's a very famous case, and I'll say this here. Robert Zoller, who was one of the 3 Roberts that was a part of the translation project that was Project Hindsight, where they were translating Greek and Arabic and Latin texts into English. Robert Zoller famously used some variant of this technique. It's unclear exactly how he calculated it because he didn't show these in early 2000s, but he famously predicted 9/11 using this technique, and then he was visited by authorities because of it. Actually, that's how hot this technique can be, is that when you start, technique was part of.
So of course, adapting this within the paradigm of hauntomancy, within the kind of hauntology of the self, right? Is going to be super interesting because luckily I have, through the hauntomantic praxis, documentation. I have journalistic, totems and totemic devices I can go back to and see where this arithmetic lands. So one exciting thing is after we go through these eclipses and he reveals, each of the bracketed dates of where these eclipses really kind of took hold, 2 years later or so from when these eclipses took place, It's going to be really fascinating to see the generation. And then, it adds a sort of like, not provability maybe, but it adds a bit more weight to the heaviness of the Hauntomancy workings, whether, just a different scope and a more cosmic kind of sheen with why, I performed these things or did all these major things under eclipses is almost a sort of like path working to a 2-year plan if I knew or intentionally knew, that arithmetic. And going forward now I will, depending on what this relays. So yeah, it's stuff. And very synchronistic that he's talking about this and this came up, especially for me and what I'm writing and going through right now. So it's magnanimous, and I'm glad we're doing this.
Of that accurately. So here we go, Great American Eclipse. So what happened in 18 March 2019 to 14 October 2019? And I'm going to say this here too. When you think about solar eclipses, one of the classic delineations is the king is blocked. The king falls. The sun is the king symbolically, and when it's eclipsed, it means there's a blocking of the king. And so often with these eclipses, you might think about things collapsing or things really changing in a way where there's destabilization, that the leadership or hierarchies break down or crumble as a result of the eclipse effects.
Okay. I will say, just from my memory alone in these dates, March 18th, 2019 would be 1 month after I lost my house. It was, I was living in this place in Portland for a long time, and after a breakup that happened right after the August eclipse, I had numerous roommates, and but it was like we couldn't afford it anymore because they raised the rent on this place, and I had this place for a few years. So it's a month after I lost the Hague house, and then 10/14/29 is I think our first. We left in September, and we were doing a road trip down to Denver, and that's where we moved to. So super interesting. These are major events in my life, especially during that time, and they happened around that arithmetic of the working I did on August 21st of 2017. Spooky.
Eclipse time. Let's continue, because I want to come to the October 2023 eclipse, which was on 14 October 2023. And when you run this algorithm, you get this as the peak zone, 3 May 2025 to 20 November 2025. So we are living, and we have been living since May this year, in the peak of these eclipse effects. And just on my month 5 to 20 November 2025. So we are living, and we have been living since May this year, in the
So he's saying that the October 14th, 2023 eclipse, its bracket is May 3rd, 2025 to November 20th, 2025. So we are currently within this bracket. And that 14 eclipse, holy shit, this is going to be a big one, because that is the one I did under the totality, or the almost, it was like almost 98% totality in New Mexico, in the New Mexican desert. And I did a dissolver echo resonar pool, and I can bring up that card pool deck. I was literally just looking at this yesterday. So I'm feeling the reverberations currently of what that deck portended. So that's really fucking amazing and exciting, because I knew that. I knew instinctually as I was writing this recent Haunt Manual piece. I was like talking about, all of the big major kind of significance of moving back to Portland for the third time in my life, and what that means, and how everything's different, but there's still some unfinished business, and just really diving into the weeds. But I knew I was going to want to pull it back into the eclipse workings, the Hauntomancy eclipse workings. And specifically, I had saved the picture on this new laptop of that tarot pool because I wanted to reference it in the piece. I didn't quite know why I would yet, or if it would just be kind of a visual reference. But here we are. That was a insane synchronous kind of tether that I would be living the experiences of that ritual working under that October 14th, 2023 eclipse, and be living that now moving back to Portland. And I remember significantly what it had portended and what it had talked about and what it had, resonated with. And here we are living through it until the 20th. And May 3rd, that's interesting. I'll have to go back because I think it was June when I decided to leave the job that I had gotten. And that first day's job will be the next eclipse he's talking about. So let's move on to that. So forgive me for skipping around. Please go subscribe to him. Watch the full video if you're interested in the reverberations of the great American fabric of which we are all suffering under always. I'm just being a bit selfish.
Facts. Let's shift. This is the final eclipse I'm examining in this video. It's the April 8th, 2024 visible eclipse. It ran through the northeast and then down through Texas. I don't think the path necessarily defines where the events will happen. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo was not in the eclipse path Sarajevo in the 1912 eclipse. It was a little bit off of it, but still ran through Europe, and many of the nations in that eclipse path were directly impacted by that assassination. The Charlie Kirk assassination in Utah wasn't in the exact eclipse path, but it was darn close. The 9/11 eclipse from 1999, that did not go through New York, but it got really close off the East Coast. So just keep that in mind. I mean, this is northeast down through Texas, and it may not be that it's exactly on the path, but it could be.
So also interesting that the totality that I was under for the 21st and for the 14th are both having to do with Portland, either leaving or returning to Portland. It's trippy.
Somehow.
And it was in that pathway, and both.
Near it, or maybe more about the northeastern United States or the eastern or southeastern United States. But okay, here, when you plug in the Ptolemaic formula, these are the dates. 6 October 2025 to 4 April.
All right. 6 October, so October 6, 2025. So April 4th, 2026. All right. So that's crazy going through this one too. This is magnanimous.
2026. So that's why I'm making this video now, is that this second eclipse has a peak that starts on 6 October and ends in April. But if you've been paying attention, this is the most interesting thing about all this, is that we have two visible eclipses in America. Each one has a range of a peak, but then they have a shared range as well. So we get a doubling up here, 6 October 2025 until 20 November 2025, of two visible eclipses, like a pincer, right focused on America, and these ideas of eclipse upheaval.
That's incredible. And it was in October, the October eclipse in 2023, of which I did the DER ritual. And then the April 8th was also part of the feast days when I met Little Wind. That is trippy as all hell. And both of those are overlapping and commuting to, me personally going through this magnanimous transformation, having jumped into freelancing, and now I'm going to be moving to Portland and restarting a life, basically. Really, actually, an evolution, not a regression, but a big momentous change, in a good way, in a generative way. So that's pretty epic. There's a lot of writing and a lot of investigation to do. Okay, so let's...
Right in this zone. So that's the most important takeaway from this video, and that's why I made it, is pay attention. Those of you that are out there interested in mundane astrology, this is a hot period, the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And let's just see what happens. I try to hold reality loosely. I try to hold the seriousness of life loosely and try to have a levity and a kind of divine elegance to it, the beauty of the divine unfoldment of life. I try to keep that in mind and hold that in mind as we watch terrible things in the news, as we watch shocking things, as we see hysteria, collective hysteria around events.
So yeah, please subscribe to him. I wanted to do something real quick. Eclipse ellipses, there it is, Dirt Hot Ranch. That is the 1014. Yep, there it is. 10/14/2023. That's the exact eclipse right there. That's a Polaroid of it. That is it. That is the Polaroid taken by Logan while we were doing the ritual. Oh, yeah. But that's the eclipse right there. That's crazy. And so he's saying right now we are feeling that. We are feeling this eclipse, as well as the 8/8/24. And so I do have, so well, there's us under that eclipse. And then here is my DER pull of that ritual. And so I am feeling what this DER pull was right now. Here it is, 4/8/24. That's the other eclipse. I've got to bookmark this somehow. And that is the eclipse. I did another eclipse DER tarot spread, so now I've got to mix these. What to dissolve and make opaque is the Page of Cups. Dim the want to start a million new things. Strengthen what you already have. Echo, what to punch forth and repeat. Page of Wands, punch forth the intuitive feelings of creative success when it comes to service and community. Resolver, what resounds and haunts on. The Ten of Cups, resolve towards the appreciation and humility of any fortunes. Revelator, the subject of the DER sequence was the world. Place myself within the position of serving a community and ritual. So interesting. So I do talk about that pull. Man, this is like, it's going to drive me mad because like there's so many dates and numbers that kind of, touch on each other and come back up. Because even in this, I'm talking about the April 8th, 2024 eclipse and the tarot pull I did there with the liminal bath the day I started that new job. Even in this, I'm talking about the eclipse on August 21st, 2017. And I'm talking about the October 14th, 2023 eclipse and how they all kind of work in with each other. And now here I am, October 17th, 2025, discussing on how all three of these eclipses are coming together as I'm working on the Spectrivium, the primer to Haunt Manual, of which a lot of its workings and practices happened on those eclipses. So it's pretty remarkable, pretty exciting stuff. Obviously, I'm just breaking open the head when it comes to this. There's so much to study and write down and to collate into a serviceable kind of timeline and document, which my idiot mind is going to have a wonderful time doing. Let's see. Sunday, April 7th, I held the second monthly Divergent Magic Grimoire Right Share. That's right. Back then. I miss those. We should bring those back once I'm, stable again. Let's see. It was a brilliant brain meld and a liminal rite to prepare for April 8th Symphony of Celestial and Mundane Magicks, a final eclipse working of the Great American Eclipse Saga, 2017 through 2024. The following report was largely drafted, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Ghost Baby Chiron and Moon Dirt Lassos. Ghost Baby Chiron. That's a good MC name. This is Ghost Baby Chiron. Alright. But yeah, wow. Yeah, things are crazy. Things are interesting. Things are beautiful. I'm lonely and sad without my puppy and my lady. But we make do with what we got. Soon we shall be reunited, and I will keep everybody abreast of the situation. I am going to go digest this in a linear fashion and try to wrap my head around what amazing ellipses this is. like I'm stuttering because my brain is even like I've been writing about the ellipses and how there's 3 points that, when you take the three endings or the three beginnings of something and you turn them into the 3 points of the tetherless triangle that is the therefore symbol, and how the three eclipses, and there are the three eclipses, there they are, that is going to encase the spectrivium. The 21st of 2017, how this all started, the 14th, when I was well into hauntomancy, and 8/8 2024, when it started to transmutate and become something new. Incredible. There's my, 3 chapters that I can mow down the spectrivium instead of doing all this other back end stuff. So great stuff. Brilliant mind explosion. I've got a lot more to share when I can wrap my head around it, but I need to decompress myself. I don't think my brain was ready to be hot wired like that. I might be in Discord later, working on all of this if I still have the energy. If not today, in the coming week, I'm gonna really try to bring Discord into it and try to hang out there and be visible and whatnot. I have this uncanny ability to act like a wounded animal when I'm not feeling great, and that is I go and shelter myself alone in places and cut myself off, and I'm trying really hard not to do that. So I appreciate you all taking the time. If John aside, it was great to talk with you, buddy, and anyone who's checking this out later, thanks for being here and checking this out. You had no idea, I had no idea, John aside had no idea that this stream would amount to anything, and it has. It has amounted to quite a bit, so I'm appreciative of it. With that said, yeah, I need to go take a shower or something. I have to run around the block or something. It's a big eureka moment for me. I appreciate you all, and yeah, more from me very soon. Haunt on. I won't stand on too much ceremony. I lit up the runes of what is the now dilapidated dimming room of Seattle to kind of discuss a recent failure of mine. A self-imposed deadline not met, a cosmic one not achieved. And that is this new moon in October of the 21st, and the Piscean reintegration of Neptune in a retrograde form here on the 22nd. What does all of that mean? How does that affect what I'm doing in my life? How is that pragmatic? Hell, how is that magic? I don't quite know. I'm not even entirely sure if these self-imposed deadlines I've been putting on myself to achieve some sort of birth and excite a new rhythmic scope of projects according to cosmic transit has even been bountiful, has even achieved anything. And well, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. It's come to my attention recently that the eclipse workings I've done since the August 21st, 2017 eclipse, all the way back then, that I blame that has set me on this path, really didn't start taking form until 2 years later, about when, in March of 2019, I had left Portland. I had left Portland, Oregon, I guess the place that I've lived the longest in my life. So my de facto home state of Oregon, because I literally have not lived anywhere as long as I have in Oregon. Anyway, that Oregon eclipse in 2017, 2 years later, according to some wild arithmetic that S.J. Anderson helped illuminate, that I'm still in the process of digesting and investigating, didn't really come into effect. That mad dash night thief ritual under that totality in the wilds of the Oregon forest on a 2-3 day sabbatical, I chose to slapdash and throw everything against the wall magically. And what occurred was really a tower card, kind of initiatory right into whatever this paradigm is. Really didn't start taking hold, according to this arithmetic, until about March of 2019. And funny enough, it was then that I lost my residence that I had enjoyed back then, and would start the journey away from Portland, Oregon, back in 2019. Just missing the pandemic. I spent the pandemic in Denver. That's a whole long other sordid tale. But we, my partner and I, have spent the last 6 years now globetrotting and the transnational kind of variety of being state-driven from Colorado to here in Washington, and have largely spent our time here in Washington. Well, I have since worked on HAUNTOMANCY. I can't do this. All right. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance. I'm getting up, I'm shutting things down. It didn't take much to light this up, and I figured, I might as well maybe try to do an intro for a Pragmagick episode, one of the 8 that I have in the wings, waiting to be released. But like everything in my life at this moment is halted, is interrupted, and is at a standstill because I am moving back to Oregon. 6 years not living there, and here I am moving back for the 3rd time in my life. The only place I've ever moved back to, let alone the only place I'm probably ever going to move back to for the 3rd time. And with that, I've been releasing a lot of music as it correlates to HAUNTOMANCY, my art and magic process that I've been writing about for the last 3 years now. There's 3, lots of 3s, on the Haunt Manual, my Substack. And with that, I've been doing a bunch of eclipse rituals over the years. Long story short, found out this arithmetic is fitting beautifully into these 2-year kind of testimonial cycles that I've documented of these magnificent and magnanimous changes that have been occurring in my life like clockwork, 2 years after each said eclipse ritual. But right now, according to this arithmetic from S.J. Anderson, which my patrons and some other folks would be familiar with that I've been talking about as of late, shows that the October 14th, 2023 eclipse and the April 8th, 2024 eclipse, those arithmetic, by some rhyme and meter, I haven't quite figured out yet, is overlapping. And right now, in this time frame, I am betwixt two big magical workings. One I did under the totality in the New Mexican desert, that October 14th one. The other one I did here in a more kind of solemn ritual bath sort of situation in Washington. A year apart, or months apart, I should say. Math's not my strong suit. There's a lot of things not my strong suit. Anyways, they're both coinciding right now. I'm in this eclipse. I'm in the shadowing of the shadow of those eclipses, and they're both coinciding, and I'm moving back to Oregon. And through all of this, I've been releasing music to the recent eclipses. Last month had two. The lunar one, I believe, was first, and that was in Virgo, my rising sign. And I released the Harbinger song of the new Revelator Ross album, Sororo Star. And I released that day. The next eclipse came, but a couple weeks later. It was the solar eclipse, and that was in Pisces, my sun sign. I released the first 3-song EP of my Algol series of EPs that collect into the first full length. So I've been keeping to a cosmic calendar. I've been keeping to a very personal, very highly intentional calendar of execution and release. Why? I don't know. I feel moved to. I feel like it coincides and it bridges and maps and makes this beautiful cartography around hauntomancy, this practice that I've been developing, and my own artistic pursuits and, magical consortments. I've been keeping to it. It hasn't gained more traction one way or another. It hasn't, there's no, there's no material, rewards or results or whatever by keeping with this moon phase calendar. That said, the full moon, this one, the huge one in October, I released the first single from the second Algol EP, Dim the Sun, fittingly named, with Mary, my partner, providing vocals. These songs have all, one way or another, interpolated through the talismanic, audiomantic rites I've been doing musically. These songs have been gestating and changing and mutating, and they've been coming together now, I feel, for complete expulsion. Finally, I feel good about the music. Honestly, finally, I feel good about music for the first time in my life. I feel like I want people to hear this. I feel proud of it. I don't feel anxious and ready to move on to the next one. I feel excited because I've sat, I've digested, I've mutated these songs, this concept. It's all webbing together. They all build together. Whether hauntomancy and my music and everything, I've kept to this release schedule. The idea was first to release Algol 2, the Echo EP, last night for the new moon. It was too hard. It was, I overshot. I overestimated myself. Even though these songs are ready and rearing to go, I have left a lot of time and ability open to capture the resonance of now for these EP mixes or versions of the song, in which I will kind of mutate and finalize, not finalize, but give them a different form, even though they'll be very similar for when they're collected into the full length. So I'm, even though most of the songs are recorded or have been recorded or are written, I'm always adding. For Dim the Sun, we recorded Mary vocals the night of the full moon at its peak. We were recording her vocals, and I put it out, quickly mixed, quickly mastered, and released it that night. For Sororo Star, I stayed up for 2 days straight and finished all the instrumentation, mixing in Mary's flute, my friend Barry Wood's, lap steel guitar, all of my guitars and drums and self-sampled, ornamentation for that. I did all of that 2 days before the release and released it. And then when it came to releasing Algol 1, I gave myself a week prior to button up and add things from the present, from the resonance of the present into these mixes to be birthed out into the world. And I was planning to do the same this month. And I was. I recorded Mary's vocals, released that song on the full moon, and then it became clear to me that I overestimated myself. That I overestimated my time energy capital. That I overestimated what I could shoulder or put on myself. It'd be one thing if the songs were fully done and I was sitting on them, in which case that has happened before, but with this project it's different. I need this trifecta of the songs to be, containing tethers and elements of what they were initially from original recordings. And I need to capture the resonance of now by molding them into something from, this presence. And then that future interpolation, that'll be the mix or the rendition or the interpolation that's on the album after they're all collected. Anyways, I overestimated my time. And so I scratched the idea of putting out that full EP yesterday. So I was going to do another song. So I was going to capture more Mary. This time doing saxophone on one of the songs that we had written and played live, or do vocals. Long story short, I overestimated our time, our life energy, and was harshly reminded that I am moving this week, this next week. All of this Seattle dimming room, this Seattle stasis, this Seattle-ness is going away as we know it. Granted, I'll still be coming up for work and all of that, which also is another prism. I've been working 60-hour plus weeks, and I'm very grateful to have that opportunity, but trying to do what I wanted to do in this cosmic calendar by only my adherence, by only my gruff and holding straight and hard to my own deadlines. No one gives a shit, right? I know that. I know not releasing or missing this self-imposed release date, no one cares. I understand that. But that's not the point. The point is I care. The point is How can I expect anyone to care if I don't care as deeply of my music, of what I'm making, of my art? If I don't care. And good art takes time, you know? Utilizing things to cut corners and take out processes is almost entirely against my ethos as a creator. It's against the philosophy of which I adhere to, of customizing everything, of being enveloped in as many processes as you can, from the minutia, from the macro to the micro, like to get sweaty and bloody with as much as you're possible, or as much as it tunes to the vision, you know? And that's just too much right now. So I missed my deadline. I missed my first cosmic deadline. And I didn't get a song finished in a way that I feel as proud and as excited as I am about last month's releases, or even earlier this month's Dim the Sun song. You know, I might say, yeah, I recorded Mary, you know, last minute and put the song out, but that was an element of something that I've been working on so hard and deeply entrenched in for months, hell, for years, since I started the practice of hauntomancy. Really, since back in September, October of 2022. Yeah, 3 years. This is the culmination of all of it. And there's so much to say about the ellipses of it all, about the ellipses of the eclipses, and about how they're cycling back and Ouroborosing itself in this beautiful cartography of the self. I missed the deadline, and I'm beating myself up about it because I'm overestimating myself, where my will, my vision, my want for quality in what I do isn't aligning with the amount of time that I have. And ain't that the fucking truth about fucking life, you know? That said, I still plan to have at least a song out. We're gonna be shifting boxes back and forth from Seattle to Oregon. We're gonna go tit all next week, and I probably am overestimating my time and myself and my time energy, and even being able to do that. But that's the goal, is to release another track from Algol-2 by Halloween. Then again, Halloween's also my anniversary. It's our anniversary. It's the culmination. Not only is it our last day as Seattle residents, but it's a lot of things. And so I might be putting too much on me to do that. Because meanwhile, I'm working. I'm working through all of this. I'm keeping a Malkuthian freaking boot snugging 9-to-5er. Not really a 9-to-5er, but I've got a day job. I've got things I've got to do outside of all of this. So I'm hoping some more music, some more Revelator Ross music comes out by Halloween. I'm hoping I get the next Haunt Manual chapter that dives deeper into the eclipse ellipses of it all. Some writing that really talks about that eclipse arithmetic and about how they're overlapping those last two great eclipses, not the ones last month, but the years ago, how those magics are overlapping right now. And maybe this is my Piscean re-entrance to Neptune in that retrograde sense. Maybe to you astrologers, whatever, this very video talking about this makes perfect sense in that way. I can see that too. I'm figuring it out. But I'm hoping that, hell, even the HAUNTOMANCER PRAGMAGICK episode of our HAUNTOMANCER, so we the Hollowed HAUNTOMANCER we just did, hopefully I can get an audio version of that episode out by Halloween. Hopefully I can, hopefully I can do it all. And hopefully I don't leave anyone high and dry or not making time for. I hope I'm not forgetting the people and the projects and the things that are going congruently that may not be scheduled to work on right now, but I'm always toiling away with day to day, here and there, whether it's We the Hallowed, whether it's the multitudes, Dim Zoom, my project with Freighter Perseus, who I know, we've been itching to get back on track with that. There's just so much, and at this time, I don't have the time, energy. I don't have that capital. And I hope you can forgive me. I hope I can forgive myself. I hope the cosmos can forgive me for not keeping to my schedule. I hope everyone can forgive the fact that I overestimate myself, because for a time here in Seattle, Eric Millar and I, We the Hallowed, were on such a beautiful rhythm for releasing quality art and deeply intentional projects, while also being torn asunder by the day-to-day and shared somatic reality that we're all in. We were on such a good rhythm. He still is. He's still killing it. He's about to put out another book, which is incredible. But for a time there, when things were set, when my sacred space was my antenna and my beacon to the cosmos, and I could come in here and fucking work, it got really addicting to be able to monthly release a cassette tape, do another audiomancy ritual, release zines, work on Pragmagick, the podcast, work on the album, of which, I'm finishing up because it has taken a long time to record and do this all. But I may be running out of my capital with that, and it's time to start a new era, a new aeon. And it just so happens that it's going to coincide beautifully with these eclipses, with this third time moving back to Oregon, and with this new album. Maybe I'll get some sleep with that thought. Or maybe I'll just keep beating myself up because I can never keep up with myself. Who knows? Anyways, we might do a Discord movie tomorrow night, late in the night. So that's cool, I guess. I need to be social. I should be more social. I get shut in. Art, like magic, it takes talismans and instruments. It takes sacrifice and time. And it takes communion. Whether that's with other people, whether that's with the specters of self, or whether that's with the cosmos. Art and magic, interchangeable. And I'm missing the communion part when it comes to other people. So, I should make time for that. My audiomancy session that I was streaming was called Little Wing. Child